I was shocked. I didn't, yeah, it
Yeah.
was good to see.
And I spoke to Sarah Weaver at the end. She's the one who won Educator.
Yes.
She lives in Manassas Park. So I
Does
met
she?
her and her husband, yeah.
Oh,
Didn't know
okay.
that.
I didn't know, yeah, they didn't mention. It was
Yeah.
good to see our drum line.
Yeah.
They were fantastic.
good.
Yes. I need to get them for one of the events that we're doing.
We can get them in here.
Yeah, oh,
Okay, it's not 7 yet.
Earplugs.
right.
It's not.
But they were very
Oh, it's
talented.
7 now, okay.
Yeah, right.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. I call to order the meeting of the Manassas Park Governing Body for Tuesday, May 9th, 2023. First, we have approval of the agenda. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Moving on to public comment time. Is there anyone signed up to make public comment? Is there anyone not signed up but who would still like to make public comment? Seeing no one and hearing no one, anyone on the governing body who would like to make public comment? Okay. We're moving on to FY24 budget advertising guidance.
Okay. Good evening, members of the governing body. Two action items as part of this agenda. One is to set the advertised rates and fees and the spending limits for advertisement. Once we get that advertised, and we can't spend more than that, and we can't have rates that are higher than what you guys advertise. You can go lower for both, but you can't go higher. So we're going to talk about that. The second part of that as well is just a request to start advertising the positions right now pending budget approval, just to kind of speed up the timeline for recruitment of these positions. And then I was going to talk about the fleet question that we had for PD, but I'd rather wait for Councilman Javette since he was the one that asked that question. So if he doesn't get here for this agenda item, perhaps we can discuss it at the manager report later on if that's okay. So for the actual budget ceiling, no change to the rates from what was in the packet. The only change was this number here for the general fund. It went up by about $200,000 since what we showed you in the packet, and that was coming from two sources here. Let me pull those up in the spreadsheet. So number one, if you recall during Randy's presentation for DSS, you all came to consensus to add the customer service position, and that was added to the budget. I forgot to do that when I showed the 6% pay raise and the 2-cent tax reduction discussion, but I added that here. The second component of it is we got the actual numbers from the state for what DSS is going to get, and what that did is it changed one number pretty significantly, and that's the fund for 811. That's foster care, so the payments that go to our foster care kids and their families who are taking care of them. We've had a significant bump in the number of foster care kids, so this item went up over $150,000. The state's giving us in funding to support that family. So it's all 100% funded by the state, so it doesn't have a budget impact to us, but we need to include it in our budget and our appropriations as well. So those are the two changes since we last discussed the budget. Any questions on that? Okay.
No?
And then the only other item, again, to discuss is just the request to begin, give me 1 second here, to be able to advertise these positions. So you can see there's two positions that the governing body added from my recommended positions, but there's some that we really need to get here sooner rather than later. The main one being the parking enforcement officer for the no overnight commercial parking, which I'll talk about later tonight. During the manager report, but recruitment is just challenging. It takes many months to get someone in. So if we start advertising, or at least working on the job descriptions, the advertisement, prioritizing, being able to get some of these out by the end of this month, that will improve the timeline. Not likely we're going to be able to hire anyone before the fiscal year, but we'll make it clear to them that we can't, and that these are contingent on you all approving the budget and the appropriations as well. But we want to at least get the advertisements out that last week of May, early June, give them that month for advertisements, then start interviewing people in July, and hopefully start hiring some of these people in August or September. So you have that in front of you as well if there's any questions. But that's all I have for the budget guidance. And then again, we'll go over the fleet stuff later today at the manager report.
Are we all in agreement to advertise at the rate that was agreed upon at the last meeting, okay,
Yes.
and we're all agreed, okay. Okay, so we don't have to split the motions, then we can have one motion. The motion is that the governing body direct staff to advertise for public hearings for both the FY '24 budget and the FY '24 tax and fee rates as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. The second motion is that the governing body authorize the city manager to advertise proposed new fiscal year '24 positions immediately, but to not hire these positions until July 1st, 2023, pending budget adoption.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to FY '24 Manassas Park City Schools Budget Resolution.
Good evening. This is a very simple item, so this isn't the final time you'll take a vote on the school board budget, but the state law requires that you adopt a budget for the schools before May 15th. We do this every year via resolution, but prior to May 15th, and then the actual official vote is done via ordinance in June, along with the rest of the budget, and then the appropriations thereafter as well. So you essentially vote for the school's budget 3 times with this resolution, the ordinance, and then the different appropriations bills that you guys will be voting on as well. But this is the initial school budget vote. Their budget this year and for the next few years seems to be very tight, where they're really holding steady on all expenditures minus pay raises and capital requirements. So those are the 2 only increases, and then they all seem to be very justified. So I really don't have anything to add in addition to what Dr. Saunders presented.
Any comments from the governing body? No? Okay. The staff recommended motion is that the governing body approve and adopt a resolution for the FY '24 Manassas Park City Schools budget as presented and subject to final review by city attorney.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Okay. Moving on to the second public comment time. Is there anyone who would like to make public comment? Seeing no one and hearing no one, let's move on to city manager's report.
All right.
Thank you.
Good evening. Tonight I'm going to go over 3 things. The first one, the mayor asked that I go over the no commercial overnight parking. So I'm going to pull up the website page going over that and just go over what it means and then open it up for any questions you all have.
When you pull it up slowly, because I've had some calls about where to find it
Sure.
and, you know, what it means. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go to our website here. And then, this is kind of our specialty item here. You'll see this banner here. When we want to highlight something, we usually put it up here. So for the longest time, we had the decal reminder. We use this for the trash, right? Or for any, COVID-19 requirements. This is the location to put it. So right when you open up the website, look for this black box on the right, and you can click on Learn More, and it takes you to the page where it goes over the actual requirements. All we're stating here is that Public Works is starting to install the signs. It's going to take them a while to do that. They're going to install 700 signs. The goal is to be done early fall, so end of September. So we'll unbag. So when they put it up, the signs are going to bag them. So you'll see a lot of bag signs popping up because we want to have signs across the city to have equitable enforcement across the city and not just start enforcing where they're putting up signs, because that'd be unfair to the other parts. So we want to of the city. So we want to put them all up, and then we'll unbag them. And then what this means is that there's 2 parts to this law, and I think there might be some confusion out there about what's allowed and what's not allowed. So you're still going to be able to have 2 commercial vehicles as a resident of Manassas Park that you're parking. It's simply you have to park them now on your driveway. That's the difference, or your garage, right? You're allowed to have 2 commercial vehicles less than 9,000 pounds. And that's something I think we could consider changing, maybe increasing that to 10,000, because that's easier for enforcement. Because if you have a commercial truck that's 10,000 pounds or more, it's actually put on the license plate. So that might be an actual easier way for us to enforce that, and gives a little bit more flexibility, I think, to some of our residents. So we may want to consider that change in the ordinance that we have. But the vehicle has to be, and I'll show you where that is. Under the 9,000 pounds, you can park that on your driveway and garage. Some residents we know don't have driveways or garage, right? And they physically can't construct any because of their terrain. So what this law allows is that if you apply to the city manager's office for a waiver and we go out and review and determine that, yeah, you don't have a driveway, you don't have a way to park those 2 commercial vehicles on your property, we're going to give you a parking tag that will prevent you from getting ticketed if you park on the street. But all other commercial vehicles, you're not going to be allowed to park on the streets from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. When we begin enforcement. Again, we're going to start with a lot of reminders, just like we've always done, right? We don't like to be punitive. We always like to remind people early on and then kind of ramp up the punitive actions with ticketing and then towing as well. But so police will be enforcing the on-street no commercial vehicle prohibition, and then code enforcement will be enforcing the how many commercial vehicles you can park on your property. The 2, it's a zoning violation if you have more than 2, so that's going to be kind of an added code enforcement operation for our city.
Take that off the screen.
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Actually, I'm going to scroll down here. So this first part here defines what a commercial vehicle is. So this is important for everyone to really look at to see what the commercial vehicle is. And remember, we spent time on this, I want to say, a couple of years ago on getting what the definition is. But again, please look at that, get familiar with it. If we want to revisit the code, please let Dean and I know if there's any concerns you have with these definitions. But we did go over this a couple of years ago, but if there's any changes you want to make, please let us know. But all we're doing here is just putting the actual code language and the citation for that code as well. And that's for, again, this commercial vehicle definition really applies for the police and anything on the street, right? So we're defining what a commercial vehicle is, and we're saying you can't park those commercial vehicles on the street unless you have the parking tags issued. It's going to be issued by the treasurer, actually, but after I give them the approval, right? I give them the approval, they'll take it upstairs to the treasurer, and the treasurer will issue them those decals, and she's going to track it based off the water bill, right? So as you're closing your water bill account, you're going to have to return those decals just to make sure that they don't hang on to it and use it to park, to allow for additional parking across the street. So the treasurer and the city manager will be working together on that. But this applies for those vehicles parking on the streets themselves. And then from a residential standpoint, if you have 2 commercial vehicles, you can park them again on your property, and this defines what a permitted vehicle is to park on your property, right? A commercial vehicle with a weight less than 9,000 pounds, large non-commercial vehicle. So it breaks down what's actually allowed to park on your driveway, on your property. And again, if you have more than 2, that's where code enforcement is going to cite you for a zoning violation for having more than 2. So this is kind of our compromise, the understanding that there are people in our city who do have commercial vehicles, but we're saying you're in a residential area, having more than 2 is kind of an abuse of a residential district. So that's why it's determined to be a zoning violation, and we've determined from a on-street parking that there's a parking shortage in our city, that we need to free up parking, and just parking a lot of commercial vehicles on our streets are taking up parking spaces from residential vehicles. People looking to park closest home to their home as possible. So that was the purpose of this law, and we're going to start enforcing it in the fall. So please, if everyone can, residents can really look at this page just to avoid any confusion. And we have examples here of the different weight categories, the different class sizes for vehicles for everyone to look at. This is why, again, I'm urging, I think we need to revisit and increase to 10,000 pounds, because it just makes it easier that on your property you'd be able to park these classes of vehicles, and then these you would not be able to. And it'll be easier for us to enforce this, because there's heavy-duty trucks versus full-size trucks. It's very hard. It's going to be very hard for our code enforcement to distinguish it, but if they have that on their license plate, it will say permanent truck if they're 10,000 pounds or more. That's just a lot easier for us to enforce. So that is one recommendation I have, is to increase the weight up to 10,000 pounds.
Okay. Thank you, Laszlo. I appreciate the presentation. I'm sure we'll all get more calls. How long will the link stay on the homepage?
We plan to keep this on probably through next December-ish, unless something else pops up. There could be other emergencies that we'll want to, other important information that we'll want to put on there. But this is going to be our next big thing, like the garbage bags. That was a big thing that we were pushing during COVID. We were pushing a lot of the rental support information. Then we moved to the garbage and the decals, and this is going to be what's on the banner. It's going to be on our variable message boards. It's going to be intermittent. Sometimes we'll be highlighting an event, and then we'll go back. This will be kind of the the standard. If we don't have anything specific to advertise for a couple weeks, we're always going to keep this on the page.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when it eventually does go away, will it go into the code section?
Yeah, it's already in our code section.
Okay.
There already is, yeah, in our code section, yeah. And what's still pending too is also we'll develop an application for those residents who don't have driveways to actually fill out that application, send to our office. Our operations officer will go out and verify the specific address issues, right? What their specific situation is with the driveway. Come back and report, and then I'll either give them the waiver or not. If I give them the waiver, they go upstairs to the treasurer and they register with the treasurer, make sure they have an active water and sewer bill and under their name, right, if they're legally living there, and then issue them those 2 parking tags to be able to park on the street, and then we notify the police about what those tags are going to look like so that we don't issue parking tickets for those commercial vehicles.
That's an excellent explanation, and I think if I get questions, if any of us get questions, we could probably refer the resident to the YouTube explanation that
Yep.
you've just given.
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Yes, ma'am.
So the question or comment that I got a little earlier today was there was some confusion about trailers and boats. And I think because just the way this was written, it's more like with a legal slant, which I understand why. But I was wondering if we could kind of distill it down into a little bit more bite-sized chunks for residents. Because I'll admit, I had to read it a couple times to gain an understanding of it as well. My other question is.
Would like pictures be helpful, maybe?
I think pictures,
Okay.
because pictures
Yeah.
can explain far better than words can,
Okay.
right? So I think pictures would be helpful. The other thing is the different events that we have coming up.
Yeah.
Are we gonna can we have some sort of display? It's another way to reinforce this with folks. Because I think.
The table?
Yeah, because it takes, 6, 7 times at least to expose people for them to understand. So I think any opportunity we have
Yeah.
with event or even downstairs would be most helpful.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look into that as well. And again, our goal, we're not going to start being punitive, right, when we roll this out. Because we learned with it, like the trash, remember how we rolled that out? And even today, there's still ongoing education. But for the most part, what we've noticed with the trash is every time we cite someone, they address the issue before we have to follow up with the punitive fine or the Public Works coming out and collecting the bag. So it's working. People are complying. It may take them, a notice, a reminder, but that's going to be the goal here as well. Is the hope is that initially we're going to be letting people know about this, but then eventually they're going to be getting fined, right? Once we've given you plenty of notice, now you're going to get fined, and then eventually we're going to start towing cars as well that are not complying with this.
I've got another recommendation. It might be helpful if we have a timeline from the very beginning of this to the very end, from like when we first, because it's based on what I've been seeing. I don't think people realize, I think they realize this just kind of.
Popping up.
Oh, they thought they just came right now?
Right.
Okay.
So I think that would be
That
good
would
if
be
we.
helpful.
Yeah, I think we provided the meeting links here for when this was.
Pictures, once again, some sort of arrow timeline, roadmap.
That would be
Hold on
helpful.
1 second. Yeah, so we talked about the date here, October 5th, 2021.
Yeah.
We provide the
but
links as
I'll
well.
tell you,
Yeah.
by that point, they're
That
not.
would be
they've-
helpful.
So. some
Maybe we
sort of-
move this up front, but,
A time, a timeline would be
Yeah.
helpful, just a
All right.
timeline.
Would be.
okay.
I agree. I have a comment too. Can you also remind, just so that it can be on record, how much we're saving by the city actually putting the signs up ourselves, the 700 signs?
Yeah,
Versus what we were planning on doing before?
At
so that-
least-
So that they know that we saved money versus, using too much of taxpayer money?
yep, at least $750,000 by doing it in-house. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any comments? Yes, sir.
Yes. Thanks, Laszlo, for the presentation. I agree with Councilmember Hampton and Amaya on the suggestions they mentioned. I think we can't do enough as far as publicizing or marketing this concept, because as you read things on Facebook and social media, people are still surprised and shocked. Well, we've been working on this for over 2 years. I would strongly recommend, and it may not be the end-all, be-all, I think it has to be a combination of things. We need to have a town hall meeting on the west side and the east side in the evening or during some time where people can come out, ask questions. It could be done in Spanish and in English, but we just tell people what's going to happen like we're doing tonight.
Okay.
Throw that out there. I think we need 2 town hall meetings
It can't hurt.
about this topic only.
Sure, okay.
And set the groundwork as to how we got here and why we're doing it, to free up parking spaces throughout our city. that kind of thing. The money that's being saved by the signs that Councilmember Amaya has mentioned. But again, I think a town hall meeting throughout our city would be helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also a reminder that the law was already there, but it was requiring, I mean, it was just with one vehicle. So now we just, to make it more feasible for us to be able to save up more parking, we made it to 2 vehicles. So just to remind residents that this was already there. We just kind of changed it a little bit or adapted a
improved
little
it.
bit. We improved it, or we made it so that it's more, like you said previously, not make it so that there's not so many commercial vehicles in the residential areas, and that was free up space.
Yeah, but what is different, though, is we don't currently, or previous to this, we weren't prohibiting commercial vehicles on streets.
Right.
So that is a pretty
Right.
big change,
Right.
yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Vice Mayor Mensing?
Yeah, my question's actually for Councilmember Moore. Do you know what the Blooms Crossing HOA has done to adjust their regulations against parking commercial vehicles in
Good
driveways?
question. We, almost a year ago, I had let them know that this is where the city was going, and they adjusted their requirements, so you now can park commercial vehicles in your driveway,
Okay, great,
according to our code. I forget what it's called, but in our code of regulations.
perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or
You
questions?
can, you can, because before you could not
Right.
Right.
park commercial vehicles in your driveway.
Any other comments or questions?
Just one other thing, when we do the town halls, pictures, because I don't think people realize how bad it is on certain corners. Like, once again, pictures speak 1,000 words, so I'm sure we can
That's a
scroll
great
through Facebook. There are plenty of pictures that have been had over the years.
Of commercial vehicles on
Right.
public roads.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Especially at intersections, how they can, block the view at certain intersections.
You might want to X out the
The names.
wording.
Yeah,
Right.
like plates and all that.
So we're not shaming anyone, but yeah, I agree with you.
Excellent.
Yeah. Has this gone out in the water bill?
It will. Keith, you know what month it's going to go? So next month's water bill.
Next
will be in
month's
there.
water bill? Okay, super. Any other final comments or questions? Yes, go ahead.
So 2 commercial vehicles in the driveway, does that include trailers?
Yeah, so
So if it's 2 commercial and like you say, a boat, it won't be allowed?
this is the definition right here of permitted vehicle. And permitted vehicle is defining what you can park on your driveway or on your property, essentially. So you can go through that. And again, to Councilmember Hampton's point, we're probably going to add pictures here just to make it easier for people to understand what's permitted and what's not. But I would urge you guys to raise the weight to 10,000. That just makes it much easier for us to enforce.
When should we do that?
As soon as possible. I mean, again, we won't start enforcing this until October. If there's consensus here, just let me know, and then that's an easy change from a code standpoint.
I have a quick question, though, about that. There's those trucks that they're quite large, and they're pickup trucks.
Mm-hmm.
And they have like 2 wheels at the back of it.
Yeah.
And I've noticed on Manassas Drive and other streets that are so big that they kind of park up on the grass. Is that,
Chief, isn't that already not permitted? You're talking about like 8 vehicles, or eight tires?
those are big trucks. I don't,
6.
Yeah.
Isn't that already? It's already prohibited.
okay.
Yeah. So if you see that, let PD know, and they can go out and take it already.
In that case, I'm fine with the 10,000.
Okay.
Okay, any other final comments or questions?
Well, I had to follow up with mine.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, so say the pickup truck, right, is commercial, or not pickup truck, a commercial vehicle, but it has a trailer hitched to it. And then they have another commercial. So now you have 1, 2, 3 commercial? Is that how you're counting it?
You have a truck with a trailer.
Right.
The
It says
truck-
it's not
Yeah.
connected or,
The truck is a commercial vehicle as well.
right. So you got
So
2
it has a-
commercial, and then you
Yeah.
got a trailer. Is that allowed for code enforcement?
Oh, for your driveway?
Yeah.
So I think they would probably, I would have to talk with Mickey about that, but I think they would treat them all differently.
That's what I'm saying.
Because you can just attach the trailer,
Right.
and now you have a truck in the trailer.
So that won't be allowed then if they have 2
No.
commercial plus a trailer?
I don't think, I don't want to speak for the zoning administrator, so I'll talk to her, and she'll probably consult with Dean on the interpretation, but
Okay.
I would interpret that as 2 separate vehicles there.
Exactly, okay. But if they're attached, then it's 1 vehicle?
No, can you unattach it?
Well, yeah,
Yeah, so I think those are 2 vehicles then.
Two.
Yeah, yeah.
interesting. Okay.
Follow up? Do we have consensus for 10,000 pounds?
Yes.
Yes? Yeah? Okay. Yes.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right, so, Next item is the fleet conversation, so perfect timing. Councilmember Javed and Chief. come on up. And you guys have a copy of this in front of you as well.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, governing body. I'll give you a minute to review the slide and let me know if you have any questions.
Comments or questions?
One quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Chief, so the SROs, patrol officers, investigators, and the command line, they're all take-home cars, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Javed, you were the impetus for this. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I think my question was,
The SROs, right?
the SRO, I forget what, I think it was the SROs, 2 vehicles you're requesting in the budget for the SRO officers.
It's actually 3 vehicles for the 3 new positions.
Right, three new vehicles. So now, we have basically more vehicles than staff. I think my question was, why can't we allocate the spare vehicles towards the new positions?
Because that would deplete our spares to 7, and it'll make it difficult for the garage to get these cars back to us in a timely manner. And if one goes down for a period of time, which we experienced in the last 12 months, for parts or for whatever reason, or the body shop is taking longer, we won't have a car for that person to drive.
Yeah, the key paragraph is this one here.
At the bottom.
Yeah, the box.
So how many vehicles we've had go, again, these are, patrol vehicles are heavily utilized, so they're going to have issues that are constantly going to be going back to the maintenance. So we try not to have, too few spares that then will limit operations. So the 10 is determined, recommended by our fleet manager as the bare minimum for spare vehicles to have to keep the fleet PD going. So you can see everything else is tied to personnel, and then this is what the fleet manager recommends to have to make sure that this can remain fully staffed during the year when vehicles are down.
And that includes the extra or not?
Yeah, that includes the extra.
That
Yep.
includes-
Yeah, we're not increasing the spares. So the spares stay where they are now. We're increasing, so we're actually increasing pressure on these spares, right? So the 10 spares have always been there. Now we're increasing pressure by adding additional vehicles. So you have less spares per existing vehicles now, if that makes sense.
Do you have a follow-up?
No.
Councilmember Maya, did you have a question? I saw you bring your microphone.
I was just
down.
gonna say, if there's a car in an accident as well, if it's not operable, we still need a car. So it's not just maintenance, it's also just in case there's accidents.
That's a great point, because we've had that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
Any other comments or questions? Yes,
question.
ma'am.
Are you noticing that repairs are taking longer now with parts being harder to get?
Yes, and that was something that Tommy, the garage mechanic, pointed out, that these cars are taking longer for him to get them back out.
Okay,
And a lot of electrical issues and stuff, so ordering parts has been difficult.
okay. It's good to know. Thank you.
Other supply chain issues?
Yeah, supply chain, and then, waiting on the dealership to get us those parts, it's been taking a little longer than usual. And in the last 12 months, we've had 17 vehicles go down for mechanical issues and other stuff, so.
And we need what we need. Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much, Chief. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. And I said we had 3 items, but actually I have 4, because one's an exciting, the last 2 things are just exciting announcements. The first exciting announcement, I did send you an email just about an hour ago that B&B and Norton Scott have reached an agreement for the theater deal. So that's very exciting. They have all their terms worked out. So now the next step is for the city now to negotiate our City Hall annex lease with Norton Scott. Again, there's still some time for this, because tomorrow night, the Planning Commission, they're going to go over the Phase 4 rezoning. The theater can't legally start construction until Phase 4 gets site plan approval, and that's still a few months away, but rezoning is step 1. That's going to the Planning Commission tomorrow. That'll come back to the governing body likely in June, if everything goes well with the Planning Commission. Once the rezoning is approved for Phase 4, then they can move to site plan work, and that happens between the Planning Commission, our zoning administrator, and the developer for Phase 4. So there's still that time. The city's going to spend time this summer developing our program, going over the City Hall annex layout requirements, numbers with Norton Scott as they also finalize their legalese in terms of the lease between them and B&B. But they have their terms, negotiated terms agreed upon. So we're very excited about that. And again, we'll also be bringing other kind of supportive development agreements back to you and the public here, also likely late summer or early fall for consideration to support this transaction as well. So,
Great. That is good news.
yeah.
Thank you very much for all the work you've done on this, and congratulations.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Any comments or questions? No?
Good job.
Okay.
Excellent. And then the last thing, just to announce, so we finally filled the General Services Administrator position. He's here with us tonight, Mark Lozier. I'm just going to bring him up to say a few words here, but we're very excited to have him. And again, just as a reminder, he's going to be the lead for procurement, for supplies inventory, asset management, facilities, fleet management, and even starting to support schools as well as we try to professionalize our asset management for facilities and fleet across the board as well. So, Mark? Oh, you
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm sorry, council members. Is this sound?
Yeah.
Okay. My name's Mark Lozier. I'm on day 2 as your Government Services Administrator. I've been a public servant pretty much all my life, for over 30 years. I started out in the police ranks as a patrol officer in Connecticut. I was born and raised in Connecticut. I moved to Virginia in 2010, but also have been all around the country. My profession started in police work. It moved on to management analyst, budgeting, assistant city manager, and city manager roles over the years. And so my specialty is budgeting, bean counting, and really creating efficiency and effectiveness in government. And there are a lot of opportunities in procurement, facilities, fleet, capital, CIP procurement things. I'm on Mr. Nguyen's team, and working closely with him and with the city manager and all the department heads. I expect to bring service excellence and integrity in everything that we do. I live in Leesburg, was in Florida recently for a little while. I had 2 lengthy stints in Florida, but I really consider Virginia home, and I really love to be here. I am like off the ground happy to be coming home here. I have 2 adult children. Empty nest, except one is returned. My daughter's a Loudoun County firefighter EMT, almost 8 years now, public service. And we like to ride our motorcycle, my wife and I. We have a Harley Davidson. I'm also, I guess you could call me a jailhouse preacher too. I am a member of the Loudoun Christian Justice Mission and go into the Loudoun County Jail and teach Bible studies. So I'm a person of faith, and I'm just blessed to be here and happy to be here, and I'm at your service and happy to help you in any way I can.
Well, we're glad you're here. Welcome to Manassas Park.
Thank you. I'm very happy
you.
to be here.
Good.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been here 2 days, and I'm just so impressed with the staff and with the professionalism and the abilities that you have for a small community. I've worked in pretty large organizations over the years, so they got nothing on you guys, so you got a really good team.
We're a very caring community. We're family-oriented. You know, it's a great place to live.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And that's all we have for tonight.
Okay, wow. We're speeding along. And my understanding is we have nothing for closed session.
Nothing this evening for closed session.
That is correct.
Okay. Is there anything else for the good of the city? Okay, motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thanks, everybody.
Probably the shortest, I think.
Good night.
Good night, Dean.
Night, Dean.